Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana weather, bringing you a severe weather update. There is some severe weather in play, particularly for Tuesday night. In fact, this looks like this could be a pretty interesting situation. Let's get right into this. First off, Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk of severe weather all over the area here, and actually the enhanced kind of creeping in on us a little bit. If we look into the probabilities here, the greatest area of severe weather threat, according to them here, would be in the black hatches here. That's where some significant severe weather. That would be defined as some F2 tornadoes or above, as well as some extremely large hail. That's where they think that could happen. As I look over the data, I think this could actually be expanded a little bit more north. If we zoom in to a more of a nicer view here, you see that enhanced risk actually does come over here into Indiana, just about as far as to the west side of Evansville, and encompasses Vincennes and Terre Haute. Slight risk for the rest of the area here. I wouldn't be surprised to see that enhanced risk area actually come just a little bit more to the north and the east here. I really would not be surprised. Let me do this. I would think that maybe the enhanced risk area needs to go something more like this during the day overnight on Tuesday. This is really going to be an overnight event for us. I wouldn't even be surprised if they need a moderate event here for us, and the moderate event probably going to be sort of something like this, just as kind of a rough estimate out here in Illinois. But I think that enhanced risk certainly could be slid off to the east just a little bit, given the parameters. And so let's kind of go through this, and I think you'll see a little bit why. And by the way, that severe weather risk then on Wednesday slides off to our east. This will be an overnight risk, really. So really overnight on Tuesday night into early hours of Wednesday morning, the Wednesday risk more for Kentucky here because it'll have moved off by that time. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. First off, temperatures. It's going to warm up as you head throughout the day. On Tuesday, we warm up to the 60s, the mid to upper 60s here over portions of the area here. This would be late afternoon, and then watch what happens. Normally whenever the stars come out at night, you cool down. Well, no, that's not what happens at all. We actually continue our temperatures rising during the overnight hours on Tuesday, so that by you're at 1 in the morning, you're still at 66 degrees in Evansville and 64 as far north as Bloomington here. And you put this into motion a little bit, and by the way, you can see the cold front coming here as you see this line and the temperatures change and the drastic shift here. You're still here at 7 in the morning. We're setting at 66 in Evansville and in Louisville, and 63 in B-Town up there. 60 as far north as Enzy, with a cold front cutting through right there. So you see this is going to be an overnight event. And then, one of the other things that, we had the possibility of some severe weather on Friday. However, one of the things that worked against us is the dew points, the moisture return. It just did not happen the way that it could have, and dew points only really got to the mid-50s, and that just didn't really do much for severe weather. Watch the dew points do here according to the high-resolution data that we've got going on here. So here we are during the late overnight hours tonight, and right now, let me just back up. We're sitting here in the 40s for our dew points. Tomorrow during the daytime, those dew points rise all during the daytime. And look at this. By the time you get into dark, you've risen into the 60s for dew points. That's a very soggy, saturated atmosphere, because remember, we're setting at about 66 for the temperature at this time, and it's 63 for the dew point. That's very, very saturated. And then just watch this. The dew points continue to soar, and then there is that cold front. The difference between very dry air and very moist air just very evident on it as it moves through. And so with those temperatures soaring into, the 60s for dew points, well, then that means, frankly, that we have got, a pretty good little situation going on here for some instability. The wind shear certainly will be there. As you look at this, we've got this belt, this axis of air, very strong air. Watch it eject here in this little bend in the jet stream. Watch it eject out of California and move our way, and this belt of red, which is very strong air, comes at us. And watch, it's during the overnight hours. We're now here to, this is 7 p.m., 10 p.m., 1 a.m., and here you've got this very strong belt of air, and look, you're talking winds right there, 102 knots, 18,000 feet over us. This is just dang impressive wind energy, and that wind energy is moving through right at the time that squall line is moving through, so it's got strong energy here to be able to work with, 90 to 100 knot winds, wind shear speeds up there, and with the instability, well, watch what happens here. All right, so here's instability for the afternoon hours on Tuesday. So here we are by 4 o'clock, and you're getting some very modest, very low-end CAPE here, moving in CAPE, convective available potential energy. This is a measure of the measure of the atmosphere and what it can do, and just sort of watch what happens here. As you go, now we're at to 1 a.m. in the morning, and notice as this goes through, this is 4 a.m., and now here we're at 7 a.m. CAPE actually, instability here actually increases as you go through the overnight hours. Temperatures continue to rise, dew points continue to rise, and the instability continues to rise as a result. And so by the time you've got this squall line ready to move through here, you're dealing with 1,200, 1,400, 1,600, 1,700 units of CAPE here along at least a portion of southern Indiana, and still 6 to 1,000 to 1,000 units or so here over most of southern Indiana. That's more than enough. That's 5 to 600 more instability units than what we had on the Friday event. So the Friday turned out to be a bust, except for you over here in southeastern Indiana. You did get a few warnings out of it, but the rest of the state, it was a complete bust for most of us. And of course, it was a high shear, but it was a low instability environment, and the dew points never just soared enough to make it unstable enough. That does not look like a problem, at least on paper, but I caution you, again, this is on paper. On paper, everything is coming together, and it looks really good for some severe weather. Will that actually translate to real life? Well, we'll have to see. Let me just sort of show you here. Let's throw a forecast sounding up here to give you an idea. This is taking a little while to load. Internet's being slow tonight, but just to give you an idea of the kind of parameters that we have in play here. Well, let's just suffice it to say, here we go. It's starting to load here. Let's just suffice it to say, oh, stupid office updates, go away. You can't actually see it here behind let me kick this out here so that you come on. Work with me, baby. There you go. All right. Let me kick this out where you can see the whole thing. I know my screen shoved it a little bit in the way here, but let me just, well, I'm attempting to get this for you guys. Boy, you got to love technology. It's got a mind of its own tonight. I hate Windows 10. Upgraded from Windows 7. It was the worst mistake of my life. You can hardly see it here, but here we go. If I do this, maybe I can get it over here. There you go. Probable hazard type. Notice what it's spitting out here. Now, obviously I'm not going to forecast on this alone, just on what something spits out here. This is just the model's interpretation of things. But it's saying a PDS tornado watch could be warranted with this. That's very, very, very significant. And here's as we look at this, well, let's think about it. There's a reason why here. Boy, I'm trying to get it to slide back over. Here we go. Let's take a look at things. Well, look at again the wind shear. Some wind shears 90 to 100 knots in there, but look at all of this CAPE. There you go. If you look down here at the parameters on this, it looks reasonably impressive if you know what you're looking at. So PDS tornado watch there is what the guess of the modeling would be spitting out. So again, if you think about that, then what are you looking at? Well, the tornado threat, I'm going to go with moderate this time. If a damaging wind threat on the higher end and the lower end on the hail threat, overall a high-end moderate threat here. Of course, they do not have a moderate risk issue. They've only got an enhanced. I'm just talking about not the SPC outlook, but the overall threat of what I feel about this. Again, the timing, this is going to be overnight, and really I think the damaging wind threat is going to be high with this. With these winds in a squall line coming in excess of 70 miles per hour, that certainly could do a lot of damage. And you got a risk for some brief tornado spin-ups here as well. Let me show you what this all looks like on future radar, just to give you an idea. So here we go. Here we are during the overnight hours tonight. We maybe get a few showers move in, and here's early tomorrow morning. Nothing much going on. We got a wave possibly moving here tomorrow morning. Would anything be severe with that? Probably not. Could be some gusty winds, maybe some small hail, but nothing significant. Then we dry out for the most part for the daytime on Tuesday, build up some of that instability, and then watch what happens during the early overnight hours. During the early overnight hours, there's your cold front, and there's your squall line building back to our west, and watch this. High-rise NAM, breaks out maybe a few individual cells overnight, that could give us some trouble. Some supercells possible. We'll have to watch that. And then it matures this squall line. And you know, this squall line does not break up as it moves through. I mean, just watch this. It gets stronger. Here we are at, and you know, this one is at, this is 7 a.m. Here's 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. It's 10 in the morning before it's gone all through the state. Northern Indiana obviously gets it first because of the slant of this. Southern Indiana, here we are at 7 a.m. It's just starting to come into you. Now, this is just the high-res NAMS interpretation of this. If you look at, you know, some of the others like the RPM or the ARW, or some of the other different modelings, it's a little bit faster than this. So anywhere from, I would say, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning until 7 or 8 o'clock is going to be that time frame that we're looking at really strongly possibility for some severe weather. So we'll be able to fine-tune those details a little bit tomorrow, I think, as the time gets a little bit closer. The modeling usually does things a little bit better. We'll also be able to add the HER model, the highest model that we have resolution-wise, into the mix. So we'll be able to have a little bit more data in there tomorrow as we get a little bit closer to time and be able to fine-tune that. But as of right now, what you need to do is just get your severe weather plan in place and understand that some brief tornado spin-ups and some very strong damaging winds in this squall line certainly could be a possibility. Hail, certainly a lesser threat with this. It would be a bigger threat if we had these as individual cells, but more what we see here is a squall line. So hail has a hard time generally forming in a line more like this. It's not saying it can't, but it's a lesser threat over the two. So have a way to wake yourself up overnight if a warning gets issued. NOAA Weather Radio is perfect for this. You can get some apps for your phone that can do that as well. Just a app called Weather Radio from WDT, Warning Decision Technologies. Pretty good one that might help you with that as well. Have a way anyway to remind you to wake you up and to be able to get that warning, because right now on paper, as I said, looks really good for severe weather. The big question is at this point, can it deliver? Things didn't look so great for severe weather. They only looked kind of iffy for severe weather on Friday. It didn't deliver. This looks really good on paper for severe weather. Can it deliver? We will see. I'll have another update fresh for you early tomorrow morning, so be sure to check back.